Happy Tuesday, One-E. This is Mrs. Hernandez, and I'm just going to be reviewing some things that you learned yesterday from your 13.1 in Pearson, which had to do with naming and counting money. So I'm going to teach you a little poem here. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see all of it. And this is how the poem goes. Penny, penny, easily spent, copper brown and worth 1 cent. And here we have both sides of the penny. And you notice on the first side we have a president. His name is Abraham Lincoln. And on the back we have what we call the Lincoln Memorial. This is a place you can go to in Washington, D.C. where in the middle right there you can see there's itty bitty, but in real life it's super big, a big statue of Abraham Lincoln. And this is worth 1 cent. That's how we write 1 cent. Sometimes you can put a line all the way through the C. So say it with me. Penny, penny, easily spent, copper brown and worth 1 cent. Okay, let's move on to the next part. This is a nickel, so we're going to say nickel, nickel, thick and fat. You're worth 5 cents, I know that. So take a good look at this coin here. This is our nickel. On the very front is another president. His name is Thomas Jefferson. On the back is his house. His house was called Monticello, which is actually written in teeny, teeny letters right there. And that is where he lived, and so that is why it's on the back of the 5 cents. So here it says 5 cents. That's how I write it the quick way. So let's say it together. Nickel, nickel, thick and fat. You're worth 5 cents. I know that. So now we're going to come on to the dime. The dime is the smallest one, but it's worth more than the nickel or the penny. We do have another president here. This is FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And on the back, we have a flame and some olive branches and some other plants here. And that is what's on the back of the dime. So this is our rhyme. Dime, dime, little and thin. I remember you're worth 10. And that's how we write 10 cents. Let's say it again. Dime, dime, little and thin. I remember you're worth 10. Finally, we have our biggest coin here. Remember that we call this a quarter. Okay, and on the front is our first president. That is George Washington. And on the back we have the eagle who's holding a bundle of rods with a wreath down here. Okay, this is our national bird. Okay, so this is a quarter. Let's do this part. Quarter, quarter, big and bold. You're worth 25, I'm told. This is how we write 25 cents. So sometimes people get the nickel and the quarter mixed up. First of all, remember that the quarter is the biggest coin that you're going to see today, the biggest one. So even though they almost look the same, the men on the front look almost the same because they're both wearing wigs in those days, but the quarter is the biggest one, and it takes only 4 of these to make up $1. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to decide, is it a nickel or is it a quarter? So let's say the whole thing all together. Penny, penny, easily spent, copper, brown and worth 1 cent. Nickel, nickel, thick and fat. You're worth 5 cents, I know that. Dime, dime, little and thin. I remember you're worth 10. Quarter, quarter, big and bold. You're worth 25, I'm told. So if you always remember, you can remember this rhyme, it will help you when you are trying to remember and count your money. So let's go and practice. Okay, how much, what is this, and how much is it worth? Okay, think for a second, and then pause the video. When we're back, I'll tell you what it is. If you said penny, you are right. It is worth 1 cent. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, pause the video. What coin is it and how much is it worth? If you said nickel, you are right. And it is worth 5 cents. This is not as big as a quarter, so don't think of it as a quarter. Some friends get mixed up, but this should give you the clue because remember I told you this is his house, and that's on the nickel. Let's go to the next one. Okay, what is the coin called and how much is it worth? If you said dime, you are right, and it is worth 10 cents. Remember, dime, dime, little and thin, you are worth 10, okay? Let's remember, move on to the next one. Okay, this looks really similar to one of the other ones I have, but it is not a nickel. What could it be called? If you said quarter, you are right. It is 25 cents. All right, boys and girls, we have some fake money here. Now, when you're practicing this at home, the best and easiest way for you to remember what coins they are and how much they're worth is to get real money at home. Tell your mommy and daddy to maybe get some change at the store or find some coins lying around and get some from the bank and use those and count them, okay? And take a good look at them. Look at them real closely. See what makes them different. You can rub them underneath. You can put paper over them and rub on top of them with a crayon, with a paper over it. And you can see what it feels like and what it looks like. That's what's going to help you remember what these are. But for right now, we're going to match. Now, they only show us the back of these, okay? And they show us the front of everything else. Okay, what do you think goes here? 1 cent. Think of our poem. If you think it's one of these, you are right. That is 1 cent. What about 5 cents? Let's see, I've got this one and this one look a lot alike, but do you remember what Mrs. Hernandez told you? The bigger one is worth more. Look at the top here. Which one of these is worth the most? Okay, that one, right? But so this one can't be, let's see, this one is worth the most because it's, remember I said it's the biggest one. It's one way you can remember that it is worth the most. It doesn't always work, but it does work when you're comparing these two coins. Okay, so this is a quarter. It's worth 25. So that means this one must be the one that we say is worth 5 cents. That's called a nickel. Let's move on. We've got, we talked about our quarters. We might as well move it over there. Okay, when you're comparing these two coins, the bigger one is the one that's worth more. That's not always true because if you look at what's left, this is our dime. This one is worth more than the penny or the nickel, but the reason I tell you to look at the face on these two is because these two people get mixed up a lot because the faces look very much the same. But in this case, look at the bigger one and that one's worth more. But for this one, remember the dime's little and thin, but it's worth 10. Okay? All right, boys and girls, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about your independent practice. The beginning here, they're just reviewing what does a cent sign look like, what's a penny, a dollar, nickel, dime, and quarter. This is something I didn't have on my other slide, but you can see the front is George Washington. That's actually his front face, whereas on the quarter is also George Washington, but that's his side, the side of his face. And here's what the $1 looks on the back. So here, this should be pretty easy after we reviewed you write down the name of the coin, the value, and how many are in a dollar. Let's talk about that. So if it's worth 10 cents, then how many are in a dollar is 10. And the reason is because every time you have a dime, little and thin, you're worth 10, you're going to count by tens till you get to a dollar. A dollar is 100 cents. There's 100 pennies in a dollar. There's 100 cents total. So we're going to count till we get to 100, but we're going to count by tens if we're using dimes because each one is worth 10. So let's do it. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. If you put up a finger for every time you were counting by 10, you should have 10 fingers up, and that is how many dimes are in a dollar. And here is, you can write down the name of the coin, what's the value, how many are in a dollar. Every time you count these, you're going to count by 1. So you do not count by tens. That's only when you have a dime. You count by ones when you use pennies. And if you look up here, they already tell you how many pennies are in a dollar, so you can use that to answer your question. Now, it asks you to circle the coins. Well, you can't really circle them for real because you can't print this off unless you have a printer at home. But you can touch the ones that are quarters. Remember, when you're looking at these two coins that look almost the same, they look like almost the same faces on them. The bigger one is the quarter. Okay, so I would touch that one because that's a quarter. And what other ones would I touch? I want you to pause the video and then click back on to find out the answers. Okay, so we already said this one's a quarter because remember, it's the bigger one of the two where you can see the two men looking to the side. This is also a quarter because remember, quarters have the eagle on the back. And this is a quarter too. Okay, so a quarter is worth, well, we already talked about that. Go ahead and write in the value there or write it down on some paper. How many quarters are there in a dollar? Okay, well, 1 quarter is 25 cents. So let's see if we can figure out what it says. Oh, look at the very top here of the visual learning bridge. They give you the answer. It says there's 4 quarters in $1. 25, 50, 75, $1. In fact, they tell you how many of each of these are in a dollar, so you can use that for any of the other questions they might have there. Because this one says circle every coin with a value of 5 cents. Well, which one is worth 5 cents? We said this one is worth 25 cents. Remember, don't get them confused. Which one is worth 5 cents? Pause the video. If you said this one and this one and this one and this one, you are right. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 coins that are worth 5 cents, which are nickels. Okay, so I would say a nickel is worth 5 cents. And how many in a dollar? Well, I can go back up and I can check. There says there's 20 nickels in a dollar. And you know how we find out? Because it's worth 5 cents, we can count by fives until we get to 100 because there's 100 cents in a dollar. So let's do it. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. If you did that and put a finger up for every time you did that and counted how many times you put your fingers up, you would get 20. There's 20 nickels in a dollar. Now there's some other questions here. Some of them are a little bit more challenging than others. You can try those at home with your, a sibling or with your mom or dad. This one is a really easy one to do by yourself. Draw lines to show which coins go in the bank. We have a quarter, we have a penny, we have a dime, and we have a nickel. If you don't remember what these are at any time, go back up to the top and check and see what they give you. Or you can check the other part of this video that I did that has the poem in it so you can remember. okay? And then you can test your thinking in the assessment practice. Which coins